As humanity has advanced through the ages, the vast world as we know has become smaller through the means of us connecting with one another. And within those means, we are able to understand many different people's opinions and thoughts and see the true connection between us all, while giving us a great foundation for what it means to truly be human. And today, we are talking about a country that has been a connection and a foundation to the beginning of humanity. Today, we are talking about a country that has a real deep story, and like most stories, the further we dive into them, the more we discover about the true struggle of a person or a people that makes up the whole of a culture. And today on FTD Facts, we are reaching our hand out and talking about the country known as Syria. So hey everybody, what's going on? Dave Walpole here and welcome to FTD Facts. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this is a video that is hard for us to do here on the channel because, well, this is a country that has a lot of controversy around it, and for me, I had to spend a lot of time really doing a lot of research on the country because this is one that we have to have a great understanding and care for. And it's also because this is a country that most of you wanted us to talk about. People like Haresh Gaming, Islam Ahmed, Psych Ward, Mohammed Tama, and many more of you. So to first start off, let me ask you the question of the video, and that is, what would be the worst thing for somebody to take from you? Would it be a family member? Would it be, your freedom of speech? What would it be? Let me know down there. Cool? So Syria, this is a country that has an extensive history, a history of progress, warfare, and fights for its people's voice to be heard. And this is because the culture of Syria goes way back to ancient times. For example, the two largest cities in Syria, Aleppo and Damascus, are among the world's longest inhabited cities. Now Damascus, it was inhabited about 9,000 BC, and Aleppo being 2400 BC. But one of the oldest structures in the entire country is the Citadel of Aleppo. Now this large castle dates back to the 3rd millennium BC, and it's considered one of the oldest forts in the world and has a history of being occupied by many different cultures, such as the Greeks, the Byzantines, and the Ayyubids, in which most of the structure is formed from them. Now, although the city to date has been damaged because of the Civil War, it was inscribed as a UNESCO location in 1986. But what about Syria's history? I mean, how far does it go back? How did it all begin? The history of Syria dates back to 10,000 BC, as it was an area known as the Neolithic Culture Center. These were the people that used agriculture and cattle breeding first in human history. And although it is home to one of the oldest human excavations, the ancient city of Hamukar has an interesting story. Scientists date this city's destruction back to 3,500 BC. But what makes it more fascinating is in 2008, the excavation had discovered clay slingshot bullets and slingshots, which suggest that the city was one of, if not the first city, to have urban warfare. But one of the most important and well-documented moments in Syria's history was when it was controlled under the Ottoman Empire. Before 1516, the country was under the control of the Mamluk Empire, but they were eventually defeated by the Turkish Empire, or better known as the Ottoman Empire, at the Battle of Marj Dark near Aleppo. And for over 400 years, the Ottoman Empire ruled all of Syria until its demise in World War I. When World War I broke out on July 28, 1914, the Ottomans and its territories allied with the German conflict, and it marked a major change in human history, a moment where countries banded together in a valiant symbol against evil. And within the darkness of that evil was the Armenian and Assyrian genocide. This was the third genocide of the 20th century and the first one to have a death toll of over 1 million people. A dark time in Syria's history that began on April 24th, 1915. Where anywhere between 800,000 to 1.5 million Armenians and 275,000 to 750 Assyrian people were marched in the desert with no food or water and left to perish in an attempt to wipe out the Christian faith within Syria. But the Arabic people did not stop there. They fought back hard, as freedom fighters of the Syrian army under the command of Emir Faisal revolted against the Ottoman army, fighting alongside British forces such as Thomas Edward Lawrence, or better known as Lawrence of Arabia. Between T.E. Lawrence and Emir Faisal, the two collaborated on many different occasions, even on the victorious attack on Damascus on October 30th, 1918. Now, shortly after that, the Ottomans and the remaining German forces were defeated by the Allied efforts, bringing the empire and a war to an end. But the thing is, after World War I, the British promised the Arabic people that they would get independence. However, that changed after the war as two diplomats, one English and one French, Francois-Georges Picot and Briton Mark Styles, secretly decided that after the war, Syria would become ruled by the French. But to ensure that this didn't happen, when the war ended, Emir Faisal, he went to the Paris Peace Conference to ensure his sovereignty over Syria. But his hopes went short when the European countries decided to split up the Ottoman territories, with the final conclusion that Syria would be mandated by the French. But shortly after that, Faisal declared himself on March 7, 1920, the rightful king of the Arab Kingdom of Syria, which ended up leading to the short Franco-Syrian War, in which Faisal was given an ultimatum to surrender his forces or face a severe invasion. And although he complied with it, his defense minister, Yusuf al-Azma, ignored the king's request, and instead he took his own small army to Mysalan, where he faced the French, where he was eventually surrounded and defeated by French forces and tanks. This ended Faisal's kingdom on July 24th, 1920, which after that, the French expelled Emir from the country that he fought so long and hard for. Now, although the French had control and a mandate over Syria, they eventually lost control during World War II. This is because France itself was occupied by the Germans, and after the Second World War in 1958, the country had joined Egypt to become the United Arab Republic, linking the two together as one. However, this deal didn't really work for the Syrian people because they were pretty much ignored by the Egyptians, thought of as second class, and of course, because of that, their economy suffered. And on top of that, even the country was known as the northern region of the UAR. At that point, the country had a coup where soldiers defected, freeing Syria from Egypt on September 1st, 1961. And within the following years came the creation of the Ba'ath government, which also had another coup in 1966. But let's step away from the politics and history of Syria to discover what else this country may have that others don't. Syria is a country that has over 17 million people, making it rank 54th most populous place in the entire world. It has a landmass of 85,180 kilometers square, having a density of 118.3 people per square kilometers. Now within that population, 74% of them are followers of Islam, with 10% of them being Christian and 3% worshipping an interesting religion called Druzism. Now what's fascinating about the people of Druze within Syria is there's only about 450,000 to 600,000 people worshipping the religion. And believe it or not, they make up the largest group in the entire world within a country. You could say that Syria is Druze capital of the world, as the world population of people following Druze is 800,000 to maybe 2 million. For those who don't understand, Druze is a monotheistic Abrahamic religion, but they don't follow the 5 pillars of Islam. But what's crazy about these people is they pretty much live in isolation and they don't even really have conversations with another. They don't even speak. It's crazy. However, as for the people of Syria, their art movement has contributed to a lot of the Arabic culture, as they are a proud people of oral and written culture and poetry. In the early days of the 19th century, many Syrian writers and philosophers traveled to Egypt and contributed to the Al-Nada, which is well known to be a very cultural and changing renaissance that happened in the 19th century. But you couldn't have history and literature without having education. And in Syria, the education within the country is completely free for students ages 6 to 12. After that, they have a 3-year general or a vocational training school, followed by another 3-year academic or vocational program. And these students are indeed learning, as their literacy comes in at 90.7% for males and 82.2% for females. Now, speaking of academics, let's talk about their healthcare program. Now, from 1970 to 2009, the country had accomplished quite a lot. For example, the life expectancy of a person in Syria went from 56 to 73. And infant mortality dropped from 132 per 1,000 births to 17.9 live births. And in 2010, a year before the Syrian civil war, the country was spending 3.4% of its GDP on healthcare related issues. And within 1,000 people, there were 14.9 7.9 physicians and 18.5 nurses. But nowadays, the healthcare system has unfortunately become very limited and restricted. The latest reports show that almost half of Syria's population has been forcibly relocated, and this is 7.6 million people, with also 4.8 million registered refugees who have relocated. The reason for this is because in 2011, Syria entered a civil war. It all began with peaceful Arab Springs protests where anti-Assad protesters marched in Damascus for democratic reforms and release of protesting prisoners. However, things escalated during those protests and police units fired on the civilians, which moved from peaceful protesting to a civil war when officers and soldiers defected, creating the Free Syrian Army on July 29, 2011. And to this date, it is one of the darkest moments and most confusing moments in Syrian history. As there are sides in every corner of the country, the war has taken over 400,000 lives. But besides the war itself, the country is still home to many historical sites. For example, the country has 6 UNESCO sites. Unfortunately, the city of Aleppo, which was 6th on the list, has areas that are in utter ruins. But the city of Damascus itself is considered an entire UNESCO zone. The reason for this is because the city is filled with many old structures. And the most important one of them all, the Umayyad Mosque, is the oldest building in the city, dating back to 715 AD. Now, this mosque was built in order to commemorate the Arab conquest of Damascus in 1634. It is 77 meters high and is made almost completely out of marble. And it is one beautiful piece of architecture, I will give it that. As well, it is one of the oldest and largest and most used mosques in the entire world, as some Islamic followers consider it the 4th most holy place on the entire planet. It is also believed that it is the place that Jesus will return to at end of days, and the only pope to have visited this mosque was John Paul II in 2001. So that's it, guys. That's been us talking about Syria. My name is Dave Wobble, and I hope this video brought you guys some insight on Syria instead of just the war in which we're reading about in the media today. That being said, if you guys have any ideas for future FTD Facts videos, let us know down there because we are always listening, or email us at our Gmail at ftdfacts@gmail.com. To finish it off, it has been interesting talking about a country and the people of Syria. It is a region of land that is sacred to our history, with a culture that is still standing proud and hopeful towards a better future. This is the country of Syria, a place where the sun always rises from its Middle East and its people stand firm and strong against the burning struggles of life.